Well, good morning. Hope you're having a great day. And thanks for joining us this morning. And we'll wait for a few folks so I can say hi. Hey, good morning, Nick. I hope you're having a good day. Mike, Nativity, Kim. We appreciate you guys. Francis Marie, good morning. Jordan, happy Wednesday to you too. From Tennessee. And Heather. Again, thanks again, guys. Micheline from Sturgeon, Maria. Good morning. Deb from Timmins, and Kim's from Timmins too. Wendy from Markham. Good morning, Wendy. Louise, right from here, Sudbury. Good morning. Infinity, New Brunswick. Good morning. Elsie, Newfoundland. Jeanette, good morning. Morris, North Bay. Baxter, Jocelyn. And Keith, our friend from Bell River, Ontario, near Windsor. Keith, good morning. And Milika. And Tina. And Terry from Hot BC. Yes, I've heard that. Not only Terry is at 5:30 in the morning, but it is hot. Esther from Miami. Good morning, Esther. Julie from Sturgeon. Lisa. Okay, Shelley. Good morning to you. Sharon. Okay. Now, this is coming, and I'm going to go and I'll say hi to the rest of you after. This is hot off the press, guys. This literally was presented to the American Diabetic Association last week on June the 25th. Okay? Hot off the press. Surprising. I'm going to talk about this for a few minutes. You know that I've done a series all through the virus of what we call unintended consequences, okay? Unintended consequences of the virus, or more particular, of the lockdown, okay? And I understand that if you are in the public health or the medical officer of health, at least that's what we call them here in Canada, when you get a virus, you get a pandemic, they're training. I mean, this is what they've been trained for, okay? They're trained to step up in a pandemic. And we've had a few, right? From SARS and others, the swine flu. They were pandemics. And these people, they get, I mean, it charges their batteries. They have almost unlimited power. And to some extent, they're just doing what they're trained to do. But right from the get-go, I have been very vocal about unintended consequences of these lockdowns. Now, to my American friends, it's just about all over, right? And you're not even talking about it anymore, it seems, okay? And so, but there's been some enormous damage. And I think we need to have like a commission. You know how you have your Senate hearings in the United States, and we need to really have a look and just see so that we don't do this again, okay? So that we don't do this again. Now, I've talked to you in the past about the unintended consequences of locking down, especially with children. Children were never susceptible to this virus. It didn't affect them. I mean, the flu was much worse for a child than COVID. Much worse. But the unintended consequences, as we saw an enormous amount of anxiety, depression, I'm talking about in children, young people's suicides, overdoses, the opioid overdoses, that's like an epidemic today in Canada, United States. Unintended consequences, look, there will always be suicides, there will always be overdoses, you're not going to prevent all of it, but it's been 100-fold worse by every measurement. And I think I've said it, it's because you're putting kids in an unnatural position. No schools, very little interaction with other kids and this and that, right? And young people. So this has not been good for young people. It's been a failed experiment. And I've been screaming from the rooftops that you got to let kids be kids. But, and then I've talked to you about adults and the elephant in the room, metabolic syndrome, people that got sick from this virus were either very old, well over 80 years old, generally, okay? And don't come at me with, my aunt had it, and she was only 65. Yep, happens. Happens. But I'm talking about in generalities. This is just well documented. Now, so we've had these unintended consequences, and we're not learning the lesson. That's what bothers me. We're not learning the lesson of North Americans, especially, are very unhealthy. When they talk about a big reset, I talk about the little reset. My reset. The way of eating. Do the reset. Fix your insulin. Because the elephant in the room was metabolic syndrome. People who got really sick, people who were hospitalized, had a couple of things that were in common. One, they had pre-existing conditions, but they hardly talked about that. But every pre-existing condition had to do with metabolic syndrome. High blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL, fatty liver. Those were the metabolic syndrome. All caused by sugar and crappy carbohydrates. But that hasn't been addressed. And listen to this. I have to bring this out now. Hot off the press. The amount of type 2 diabetes. You know what type 2 is? Type 2 diabetes is what we call adult-onset diabetes, okay? It was given that name, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, I think. Did I know that when I was in school? Adult-onset diabetes. Yes, I think we did call it that. Now you're going back almost 50 years. Adult-onset diabetes. Okay, what's the headline? The headline from the American Diabetic Association is that adult-onset type 2 diabetes has doubled. Let me finish. Has doubled in children. In children. You see, in the 1970s, did I ever see a case of adult onset diabetes in children? Nah, not much. I saw type 1, and even then, type 1 is an autoimmune disease where the pancreas is not working properly. But type 2 is lifestyle. It has to do with food. It has to do with, it's not a mystery, guys. Type 2 diabetes is not a mystery. Medicine oftentimes likes to make it it's an insulin problem. Yes, it's an insulin problem. But medicine, we need to give you, metformin or insulin. No, it's a problem of food choices. It's an allergy. Type 2 diabetes is an allergy to carbohydrates. It's not any more complicated than that. You get adult onset diabetes when you are a carboholic. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And guys, it bothers me. Here we are, a year and a half, more than that, into this thing, and now we have the double amount of type 2 diabetes in children. It's doubled in just 18 months. This is tragic because I'll tell you why it's tragic. To medicine, once you're a diabetic, you're always a diabetic. So if a type 2 diabetic gets diagnosed, they are labeled as a diabetic and they'll always be a diabetic. There's no remission for them. It's medication. And I hate to be negative, but doctors who know so little about nutrition, they can't see it because they don't understand it. It's eat what you want and take the meds you need to control your blood sugar, because they see diabetes as one thing and one thing alone. It's control your blood sugars. You have to control that. They're right in that sense. Yes, you have to control your blood sugars. But you don't need medication to do that, because that'll never fix it. It just controls your blood sugar. You have to take a step and go back to why you got diabetes in the first place. And guys, you know me. I've said this 10,000 times, and I'll say it another 10,000 times as long as I can talk, I'm going to say it. It's food. And most people in North America, listen to what I'm going to say, 88% are already diabetic. It's just that blood sugar is not the thing that you look for. I know that's what medicine looks for, and I'm not against looking at it, but that doesn't tell you. Look, a lot of people, you're normal. You're not normal if your triglycerides are high, your HDL is low. You are effectively a diabetic. You got belly fat, you got visceral fat, you got high blood pressure, you're a diabetic. Imagine doubling the amount of diabetes. Type 2, adult onset. A child should never get type 2 diabetes. Never. Should never be diagnosed with that. But we live in a society today, you gotta have a balanced diet. No, you don't. You better have an unbalanced diet. There's so much sugar. There's so much crappy carbs. Kids, I was reading the other day, I think I'll post it after. There's, what did it say? 80 different types of Oreos and Pop-Tarts. 80 different types. You go into the cereal section. You know what I call that? They should have a warning in the grocery store. You are now entering the poison section. If you eat any of this, you will be poisoned. They should have a big sign there. Yeah, you can eat it, but it ain't good for you. And I would have a sign up in the grocery stores. Eat at your own risk. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how twisted our world is? Guys, if you want to see twisted, you go to the outer edges of the grocery store where you have your eggs, meat, and cheese. Leave the produce out of it, but eggs, meat, and cheese, and they'll tell you, the world will tell you, don't eat that, but come here. Let's go into the middle aisles of our grocery stores so that you can have Pop-Tarts. You can have our cereal, because it's full of fiber. His fiber is so good for you. And you know what? Those animal products, that's bad for you, and it's bad for the environment. You want to know why I get a headache? Is when I think about stuff like that. I get a headache. But guys, imagine our kids. In 18 months, they have doubled the amount of diabetic. And guys, that's just the ones they've diagnosed. Blood sugar is a lagging indicator, even in children. It's the last thing to happen. It's not the first thing that goes on. It's the last thing that goes on. The first thing that goes on is their little livers get full of fat because they eat nothing but cereal, crappy dinner, Pop-Tarts, Oreos. The food industry, and then, which is even worse, is what they're drinking. Oh, you better have orange juice, because that's full of vitamin C. No, have the real vitamin C coffee. Well, not for kids. Oh boy. No, but you got to have orange juice and have these juice drinks. Oh, that's diabetes in a glass. They should have a huge warning on Tropicana. Don't feed this to children. It is poison for children. It's not good for them. And put the poison label on apple juice too. This will kill your child. Now you talk about a message that is diametrically opposed to what is being taught. But we guys, you and I, have seen this. You ever see like an experiment that you can draw conclusions very quickly? The laboratory of life, you know? No, but seriously, you can draw conclusions. This is, in one way, these 18 months have been marvelous in a way in terms of medicine. Because we can, we've had a laboratory for 18 months on what, almost on what not to do. And you know what I'm scared of, guys? Can I tell you what I'm scared of? We're going to come out of this and there'll be no inquiry. There'll be no commissions. There will be no one looking at this 18 months and saying, we made a mistake here, here, and here. Nope, it won't happen. In my opinion, it's not going to happen. We won't have a good look at this because we have been given information that is incredible. I was going to talk to you about vitamin D this morning, and we will. I promise I want to do a little bit teaching because I've been asked a lot of questions about vitamin D, and I promise, I will bring this out, okay? Tomorrow? Yeah, unless something comes up. Okay? Unless something comes up, because, when this came up, when I saw this, when I saw children, you grandparents out there, can I ask you a question? Is there anything like being a grandparent? My sister, my youngest sister, she just became a grandma, okay? And I said to her, Kelly, that love that you will have for your little granddaughter, I said, is not only instantaneous, it is unreal. It's another level. Hey, listen, I had 4 kids, and I love my kids. I love my son. I love my 3 daughters. But I love my grandchildren. It's different. It's what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Do you know what I mean by that? When my grandchildren come to our place, all bets are off. You can have anything you want. Okay? We don't say no here. Okay? We don't say no. No is when you get home. No, but you guys, if you're a grandparent, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just something, I don't know. It's hard to describe. But what in the world have we done to our children? And I've said this to you before. We are the first generation, my generation, okay? The senior citizens of the world who have thrown their grandchildren under the bus. Everything in our instincts Okay, grandparent, listen to what I'm going to say. And I've never heard a grandparent disagree with this. So let me just finish. As a grandparent, you are willing to give up your life for your grandchild's life. True or false? It's true, isn't it? You're thinking, well, I already lived my life. Right? No, I'm not saying I'm not a pessimist or anything like that. I'm a realist. I'm pushing 70. I've had a wonderful life. I have. I'm very thankful. But my grandchildren, you know what, guys? Go for it. I want you to have the best, man. I want you to strive, and I try and pump up their tires. This is so unnatural that we, as a generation, when I go to the grocery store, when I see people who are miserable, if your mask comes down here and they scream at you, they're angry because they want to keep this locked down. I got big trouble with that. Big trouble with that. Because, hey, grandma, it's not affecting you. It's affecting your grandchildren. Oh, they'll be all right. No, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. Forget the depression. Forget anxiety. Forget the suicides. Forget the overdoses. If someone is a diabetic when they're kids, my word, their life, if they don't turn the bus around, if they don't get to understand that food is now either good for them or poison, there's no neutral foods when you're a diabetic. You either put something in your mouth that's good for you or it's poison for you. But we've sacrificed the children at the altar. You read your Bible, and the thing that drove God crazy was you read the Old Testament and you see the sacrifice of children to the god called Moloch. And God never let people get away with that. Because that infuriated him. But we're doing it. Our society has done it. And, it's unintended. I don't think we meant to do it. But we did it. We didn't let kids go to school, for heaven's sakes. It's dangerous. It wasn't dangerous for them. It's dangerous if they didn't go. That's what we knew. But we didn't care. Stay home. Stay safe. You know how many times I heard that? Stay home, stay safe. Well, you know what? Staying home and stay safe, you sacrificed your children to the god of Moloch, to the god of public health. That's what we did to society. The virus became more important than anything. True or false? It's true. Now, you guys, I'm not after you. You know better. I am talking about society in general. It bothers me. It bothers me. I was talking to an oncologist. And they said it's like a plague. Because we can't, I brought this to you before, like oncologists are into early detection. They want early detection. I like prevention better. But anyway, their training is early detection of cancer. And I brought to you in the past how that has been put aside because you couldn't get your test done. That's another whole area. But folks, I tell you, like we already had an epidemic of 88% of the I can't get that stat out of my head. The 88% of people in North America are unwell. They're on the Titanic. They're on the Titanic. And all this whole thing was rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. How about changing course? How about let's turn the ship around? But guys, I'm passionate about that. Passionate about it. And you know, it's you know me, I talk to you about you. You start. You are educated. You know more about nutrition than 99% of the physicians I have ever met. And I mean that. And this is about lifestyle. It's about getting and you know, you try and teach it to your children and your grandchildren to the extent you can influence them. You can bring a horse to water. You can't necessarily make them drink it, but you can sure add salt. Make them, you know, look at grandma there. You know, look at grandpa. They changed their life. Look at mom. Look at dad. Like they did the reset. They fixed themselves. They are on a lifestyle and they preach it. They, you know what? Sugar and me, I don't get along. And you probably don't get along with it either as you preach to your family and friends. And it's one of the reasons, guys, that I wanted to get into full-time education. I thank God for this platform. Facebook, podcast. What a platform. You know, I had a radio show for 20 years. A TV show for, 5 years? And, you know, it was good. I mean, it was great. I enjoyed every minute of it. But I couldn't reach the amount of people I'm reaching today. You know, 50, 60,000 people every week. And the podcast, that's crazy. It's wonderful. So that's what I wanted to do. It was always my goal. It really was. Even when I was doing the radio show, I thought, well, I want to go into full-time education. What's going to be the best way to do it? I'd like to be able to teach what I know and, you know, give my experience. And, you know, radio was a wonderful venue. You know, we had a syndicated show and it was tremendous. This is better. It is. We reach more people. So anyway, are you tired of me yet today preaching? Nah, guys, look, I as soon as I saw this study, I said, they'll bury this. They'll bury it. The mainstream media is not interested. They're just not. This ought to be a huge, huge, huge story. Children doubled their amount of type 2 diabetes in 18 months. Doubled. Have I talked to you about what it's going to cost? What diabetes alone will cost society? Somebody said, I think it was by the year 2030 or something like $30 trillion a year worldwide. Guys, all the tea in China can't pay for what that's going to cost us. Because when you're a diabetic, it never ends well. It always ends poorly. That's, when I think of diabetes, it's not if you hit an iceberg, it's when you're hitting the iceberg. If you don't fix it, if you don't put it into remission, you are on the Titanic, and it's not if, it's when you hit the iceberg. The iceberg of cancer, the iceberg of cardiovascular disease and stroke, the iceberg of Alzheimer's and dementia, the iceberg of autoimmune, the iceberg of losing your limbs, the iceberg of losing your eyesight, the iceberg of losing, I was driving in an area not long ago that I think within 2 city blocks, there was 3 dialysis clinics. Guys, can I say something? In the 1970s, dialysis? Not that there wasn't dialysis. And thank God for dialysis. It'll keep you alive. But why do we have so much dialysis today? Where you need to be hooked up to a machine for your kidneys to work. Why is that? It's diabetes. It's diabetes. It's sugar. It's crappy carbohydrates. It's not salt. No one ever had to be put onto dialysis. Oh, you know what? You were eating too much salt. And no. It's sugar. Okay. Okay. My blood pressure just came down. I'm relaxing again. Guys, we appreciate you so much. Thanks for putting up with my rants. I mean it. Much appreciated. If you get a chance, share this. Okay? Share it. It's the way algorithms work. I learned a word, algorithm. It's the way it works. It works with Facebook. And if you have a smartphone or a device or whatever, you can download our podcast. So you can re-listen to this. You don't have to re-watch it. You can re-listen to it. Okay? And get your friends and family to join the Martin Clinic Facebook group. We appreciate that. You guys are so good. And thousands of people join our little club. And we welcome you to join. Thanks again for the reset, making it numero uno in Canada. We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, guys. That's getting the message out. It makes a wonderful gift, Okay. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.